Happy New Year.
First repeat guest we've had.
First repeat guest?
Yeah.
Wow.
We haven't had a repeat guest.
What an honor.
Man.
I'm excited.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
We're excited to have you.
I keep getting pinged and people are like, are you guys still doing the podcast? And I'm going to go ahead and blame it entirely on you for traveling so much.
Yeah.
However, here's the thing, man. So with all of, like the other podcasts, we do them in person because it's hard to emulate this
Right.
vibe.
The meat space vibe.
But
right?
the reality is Bitcoiners don't come through Houston as often as we would like. Right. So we got to start doing them remote. We got to figure out a good way to do it.
Right.
We got to make it happen.
We're going to talk about that after the show, right?
Yeah.
But eventually, any respected Bitcoin miner will have offices in Houston, and then thus
that's what needs to happen.
Bitcoin is energy, man.
Yeah.
Why would you not have a place in Houston?
Yeah. So
I have been talking to some groups, and they don't have a presence in Houston now, but they've mentioned like that would be their next.
All the dogs building
space
right now either have outsourced talent here in Houston or have offices in Houston. So,
I believe it.
Yeah.
I believe you have to.
Yeah.
You have to.
So,
this is the Mecca.
So in Houston, we have an event coming up.
We do. Empower, third year.
Big time.
Third year of Empower, March 26th and 27th. It's going to be awesome.
It's dope. I'm excited.
Same location.
Same location as last year. We switched some things around, made some improvements. But I mean, last year was a great considering we were in a bear market.
Sure. Yeah.
Now we're at like twice the price.
That's right.
Right. And so sentiment is high. Everybody's feeling good. We're doing a little bit more technical presentations this year. So
if you were to give a comparison, like what type of presentations, like would Oxy or Diamondback give? Like something like on a technical side or what?
So I'm thinking something like more like what Chris Alfano gave at TBC Summit, where he walked through, for one, the cyclical nature of Bitcoin and natural gas. And he walked through the economics and what it means to an oil and gas operator for them to go and mine using their gas. Right. And then kind of the optionality of like, do you sell to the market? Do you mine the Bitcoin? Right. He had wonderful slides, explained all of that. And so, yeah, having more visual aids. We're still going to have panels. May have some other formats as well.
Type of presentations. Cool.
Yeah. I do think that's a good way to go because and Chris in particular, I've seen him give that same presentation a couple times, but I do think we get saturated with the same panels, same speakers over and over and over. Yeah. Every mining conference. So I'm glad you guys are switching that up because I think that's going to set it apart a little bit more from what a lot of the other mining conferences.
What other events are happening this year?
So I just got back from the Nashville
How was that?
Mining Summit. It was very good. They do a great job at Bitcoin Park. Shout out to all the organizers. It was only 100 people. And the room where they do the panel is maybe the size of this office.
Yeah. Is it all mining? Is it all Bitcoin?
So it's all Bitcoin, say all the technology layers of Bitcoin mining. So pools, they get into some of the macro Bitcoin stuff. But a lot of it's very mining focused. And, the biggest takeaway from me was a panel that I enjoyed, was seeing a panel with a sitting senator from Tennessee and the head of TVA. Having
the Time Variance Authority.
I think
so. Loki reference.
Yes. The Tennessee Valley Authority, right?
Oh yeah.
Having a conversation about integrating Bitcoin mining to make their grid more resilient, and so
that's a big deal.
Wasn't that guy at Amplify?
I don't think that gentleman was. No.
Okay.
And not the head of the TVA, and so
maybe you're thinking the Ohio guy.
Yeah. For some reason, that sounds really familiar.
They've had different regulatory authorities come through, and I'm sure they'll come to Empower as well. But having those types of conversations, we weren't having those conversations 4 years ago, so that was great. And then also like people are still here, so yay, right? Like they don't have to go find something else to do. And the vibes, the sentiment is higher, and I'm happy in later part of this part to talk about some of that M&A and kind of acquisition activity that's happening.
Yeah, there's a lot of news. We've had such a long hiatus here that there's a lot of good stuff to talk about. Which one big one is your jump as well to Giga.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Tomorrow's off the market.
Yep. joined Giga Energy in January 8th, earlier this month. Really excited. Vice President of Business Development. Super hyped to be blocking and tackling on all the projects that they're doing. I've known the guys for a good couple of years. Really impressed with what they've built, where they're going, and excited to be along for the ride and kind of help get where we want to go.
Just very strategically positioned to win.
Oh yeah,
sure.
They're the most impressive 15-years I've ever met in my life.
Yeah.
They get younger every time.
I did tell them that I want to get them into a bar. Sometime before the halving. But no, it's good to be one of the gray hairs on the team. Really excited to kind of a lot of high energy. As you guys may know, Giga is a flare mitigation focused operator. That's kind of where they've cut their teeth. And we have, a couple of flagship sites in the United States, but they've also ventured internationally. Mm-hmm. And so when I had the opportunity to go mine Bitcoin off flare gas in Latin America, knowing my family's oil and gas roots from Colombia, that was an opportunity that I just couldn't say no to. So a lot of really exciting stuff happening down in LATAM. Brent and Matt are spending time more and more in the Middle East, which is very exciting. We can talk about, how the Middle East is positioning, energy infrastructure as a complementary play, now that, let's say, they can't just pour money into SoftBank and expect a return, right? And then of course, Giga, I think complementary to the operations side of things. And also for something that I learned when I onboarded, they also have on-grid projects. Mm-hmm. So they're here in the United States putting on-grid projects, which is like great. Very cool, diversification. But a whole part of the house that I wasn't really, aware of was the product side. Mm-hmm. And, I've been super impressed with Shiv and kind of the team he's built out in China on, manufacturing capabilities and product. And so, they've, I think, shipped over 150 megawatts of air-cooled solutions. They've got hydro solutions that we, are just got deployed in West Texas. We're doing a tour later this week.
So are they building the same things that y'all are building here in Texas over in China?
So we're doing power generation here in the United States. Okay. And then we're doing a lot of the electrical, transformer switchboards, and the data centers, can be basically dropped anywhere in the world. Coming out of Shanghai. And so that's having that global reach is very exciting, but also allows us to be very cost competitive and know what people want at the end of the day. So, we'll talk to some of the nameplate miners that everybody knows down to your private shop, and we can have a kind of a holistic conversation. So that's super fun. It's a lot of fun.
You're a truly international business. You just mentioned like within 10 seconds, LATAM, and then doing business over in China and doing business in Saudi.
Yep. Lots of calls at different times, which is a lot of fun. So super excited for this. I think 2024 is going to be an exciting year for all of us in the business. Really excited to kind of be with Giga to help knock some balls out of the park, and happy to dive into any kind of part of the adjacent energy relationship with Bitcoin that you guys might be curious to talk about.
Yeah, man. Giga obviously is, I don't know, man, watching what those guys have done, now you too, but in such a short period of time. I mean, even when we had them on, they were our second show. Mm-hmm. The growth from even then to now is remarkable. So, about a year. Yeah, because we're about over a year in now.
Congratulations. We're going to have like a little birthday cake.
We should have a party.
I'll bring a coffee cake next time.
All right, good. Yeah. Sounds good. Perfect. But yeah, like what they've done in this short period of time, I mean, I don't know, this whole industry has grown so fast. It's still extremely small, but what they've been able to do in this short period of time it's really impressive. And I do give them crap about being freaking 12 years old all the time. But
eventually they'll be 13.
Yeah.
Right? But
man, like they're two of the most seasoned young guys.
Oh man,
they impress me a lot.
I'm so impressed with them. Their wisdom is super wise beyond their years. Yeah. Their ability to execute is amazing, and I'm hyped, man. Yeah. I'm hyped, and I'm excited, and we've got I have lots of ideas that just within our network and our friends that I'm excited to share with you guys. As
making this year. You guys are like a powered trio now.
Yeah,
Mario's network with the Giga Boy brains is.
Whew. Yeah,
powerful.
His collective age is just over 30.
Yes, I know.
We might be able to run for president in 10 years.
Man. Yeah. It was last year when I realized I was like, holy. I was talking to the two guys earlier. Tyler LaRoche was one of them. Good dude. Love that
Young
guy.
legend in the game.
Yeah. And it was him and a buddy of his. I don't want to say who it is, but they were talking to me. We were talking about trying to do something together. And I had them two on the phone together. And I'm like, I realized I'm literally as old as both of them combined. And that was very strange. It was like, oh, geez, I have accomplished nothing in my life compared to these turds. So, yeah, it's pretty impressive, man. A lot of young, really bright, ambitious, aggressive, business-minded young people in the space.
I keep thinking I'm about to turn 35, which means I'm like 7 years away from you.
I know.
And then that means I'm like old as shit at that point.
I know. Can you believe that?
It's like looming
talk
over
about a
my head.
wake-up call.
I keep thinking about it every day.
Well, I like the salad going on up here. We all got it going. It's good.
Hey, I waited 20 years for curly hair to come back in style.
There you go. It's his chance.
My brother watched my office the other day. He goes, "Damn, you're looking like a fuck boy." And I said, "Word."
I feel like that's a compliment.
That's a compliment. Right?
Yeah. All the Riz.
All the Riz. I've recently found out what that means.
There you go.
Thank you. Yeah,
I'm surprised your kids didn't teach you that earlier.
Well, Jackson, he used it. I was like, "What is that? Is that like? It sounds like some type of disease. I know you'll get checked out, but no, it's actually a good thing."
Checked out for the Riz.
So big news. It's not really mining related, but
sure.
My opinion on it has a lot to do with the ancillary benefits of it. But Bitcoin ETF happened early this month. We're filming post that, and we've seen that drop in price afterwards.
Yeah.
I don't put a whole lot into that, but what's your thoughts on the ETF and how that's going to impact mining and any benefit to miners at all? Obviously,
not very well versed in this topic, but I do spend time kind of listening to perhaps people who are, I think there was some type of expectation that there was going to be a big pop with the approval. I don't know if you guys saw, but the SEC Twitter got hacked.
Yeah.
They didn't take their 2FA, right? Like we all like, oh, I hate 2FA. Now I understand why you do 2FA because somebody's going to hack you. And so they McFumbled the announcement, super hard. And that played around with some volatility. My understanding from people who are much closer to Wall Street is you're seeing a lot of inflows and outflows from other products such as like GBTC, right? The Grayscale Trust. And so you're getting a lot of, there's interest. I think it's broken some records on like asset class, inflows. But now my dad can get Bitcoin exposure from his Fidelity brokerage account, right? So I think that's huge. There was a little bit of speculation that what would this do to Bitcoin miners because, stocks, pretty liquid stocks like Mara or Riot as an example were somewhat the way, or MicroStrategy were a way that traditional Wall Street players were able to get exposure to the volatility of the space. And now they can just do that with an ETF. And so I think what this does for Bitcoin miners, I think in the short term, nothing in regarding like stickiness. Like if I bought you at X and now you're at X times whatever, I'm in. Like, why am I going to move out? Right. But I think it's also going to, create some discipline amongst the miners and focus around, why do people invest in Bitcoin, in a Bitcoin miner, in a public Bitcoin miner? Is it because they can get Bitcoin cheaper? Right. And so if that's the case, then does that create an alpha to the ETF beta, right? Like if Bitcoin's beta, then, can they get something, can they outperform that? And I think Bitcoin miners are going to have to be able to kind of meet that narrative if they want to receive capital from educated capital. That being said, I'd say most analysts, some of the banks are starting to cover the space. Cantor Fitzgerald is covering the space. JP Morgan had a report. That's great. That's huge growth from like the traditional investor community. But most of the space still has no idea other than like meme stock, volatility of why, to buy a public equity in the mining space.
Yeah. And I think the other thing, I hadn't thought about it like that. That's a good point though. But the other thing I do think it does, and I don't think it's going to be something you could see immediately, but kind of creates additional legitimacy for ancillary investment into Bitcoin.
1,000%. Into Bitcoin itself, right? So like Bitcoin and the asset class.
Right. But then even further is the kind of ancillary services, not only just, public miners, but private miners.
That's right.
Developing business ideas around Bitcoin opportunities and things like
Bitcoin finance.
Right. I just think it further, it's like, look, we had a adversarial SEC approve the Bitcoin ETFs.
Yep.
And if that has been done, it's almost like you can't kind of ignore it at this point. You know what I mean?
We're not going back.
Right. And so I think long term, obviously, I think the price action is going to have the Bitcoin price action.
And there's different speculations like, people who rotated out of GBTC can't get back in after 30 days. So like maybe we might have a pump in like a month or so.
Right.
And then again, if you look at like, I think a good analogy is gold miners after the gold ETF got debuted, and long story short, both went up.
Right.
So,
right.
Yeah.
So I think I don't worry about Bitcoin price.
Yeah.
In fact, I was kind of anticipating, just because I feel like I've been in this long enough to see the, buy the rumor, sell the news kind of deal.
Sure.
And people are going to take profits when things have popped a little bit. Like, it's just part of what it happens with stocks too.
People act like this is like, the time,
right. It happens all the time. So it's not really something that I think should shock people. People jump on the bandwagon trying to beat Bitcoin down.
Sure.
So it's like, I don't even care.
Right.
Like, I'm actually kind of glad it came down a little bit, because I can go stack a little bit more.
Yeah.
So I'm not like entirely upset about it. That being said, I think there's going to be some long-term benefit besides the price, because I think the price would have went up anyway. But besides the price, like, there's some really, really good
quality
benefits.
of capital that can get in the space now.
Right.
Yeah.
And it takes away the excuse of like, this is real. It's real.
Yep.
It's real.
Yep.
So I'm happy to see it. Very happy.
Is there one ETF? Is there 10 ETFs?
It's like 11.
There's like 11. And then they're all like trying to drive fees down.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's good for the consumer.
Right.
In that case. One of the things that is quite, that people know is Coinbase is the custodian for like 8 of them. Right.
Really?
And so like here, who won, the regulatory battle after these like last cycle, or FTX exploded and all these like, Binance, kind of got chopped at the knees, is the regulatory darling, right? Like the person who played by the rules for the good or the bad of it. That's the bet they made. But of course, like Fidelity is a custodian, so they're custodying their own. There's some partnerships in the space. So
I haven't watched Coinbase's stock price. Did they pop at all?
I'm sure they did.
I don't.
My favorite ticker is Burr.
Oh, really?
Like the
that's right.
money printer go Burr. Yeah.
I saw that.
Yeah.
That's pretty creative. I like it.
Yeah.
But all right. So what's your role at Giga going to predominantly entail?
Yeah, it's so business development, which is a very wide umbrella for adding revenue to the bottom line, right? And so I'll be helping spearhead all the E&P relationships that we have. It's kind of fun to talk subsurface data and production data again.
Yeah,
I know something I used to do more at Exxon.
Dusting all that knowledge on.
Exactly.
Back being a scientist.
It's like, what is this log, right? What's this decline curve? And then so doing that both domestically and internationally, and then of course just continuing to synergize with our partners in the Bitcoin mining space. And so for example, we just deployed a hydro WhatsMiner unit at Gideon's Colorado City facility.
Yeah.
Super awesome. Super excited to be working with them on that project, and, being able to test, curtailment, for example, with them, and how that outperforms on the hydro side, and, air and immersion curtailment is super exciting.
Have they got much data from this yet?
It's in process.
All right.
It's in process.
We need to get Brad Cuddy on here.
Oh yeah. Brad's
like one of the coolest freaking dudes. And
yeah.
He's like, he's awesome.
And
I like look at him. I'm like, man, I want to be just like you.
Yeah, man.
Like, he's super cool.
And he's got way more oil patch experience than all of us put together. Right.
Yeah.
He's been out there. So no, they super awesome relationship, super excited for that project. And then, being able to expand that out. So a lot of having good times with friends, is what we're doing.
We need to get Brad excuse me, we need to get Brad and Austin on here together.
Yeah.
They got a great story about freaking one of them losing a finger.
Yeah. I can only imagine.
It's incredible.
I can only imagine.
I heard it on Gideon's plane. I was like, this is the coolest freaking trip I've ever had.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then went and had some vegan food. I never thought there was a good vegan restaurant, but man, Brad put me on one.
Yeah, man.
There's not.
Yeah.
I would have went with that before. I was impressed. It was really good.
In Houston, anything is possible.
It was in Miami.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Even better.
Yeah.
Cool.
It was good stuff. But yeah. So what about some of the international projects? Can you talk about any of the ones you can talk about?
Yeah, for sure. So, there's always irons in the fire. One that I'm happy to share a little bit more is a partnership that we have in the Argentina oil patch, where we're working with local, a very well-established team, both technically and kind of reputationally there. And we're excited to, we're mitigating flare gas with a large international E&P there. And so very exciting because that's, the Argentina has, an amazing amount of resource, especially from a hydrocarbons perspective. And now that they have a regulatory regime that's changed with the election of Javier Milei, I'm excited. Yeah. Right. And
how long have you guys been? Sorry to interrupt, but how long have you guys been? I know you just got over it, but you've worked with Giga in the past, right? How long have you guys seen a change already from him taking office? And
I wouldn't say since he took office, but in general, things are inching. Local regulatory partners see the benefits, and then they kind of inch that way forward anyway. And one of the things, maybe perhaps a tangent kind of to the relationship of Bitcoin mining and oil and gas is, like in Argentina, like in the Permian and some other basins, offtake is a problem. Yeah. Right. And, you're having, oil prices are somewhat, they're good for now. We need to return capital, kind of be disciplined. A lot of great, companies are doing that right now. But, as the geology change, as you're drilling into different geology, your gas to oil ratios start to change or not coming out as predicted, and you're having all this M&A consolidation happen, and development plans change up and whatever they may be. I can see board of directors being quite concerned that they can't hit liquids targets in the future if they don't have gas offtake. Right? We have flare gas fines hitting the United States. I think in 2025, 2026, the EPA is going to fine flaring, right? And so that's one stick, right? And then if you don't have enough takeaway pipeline gas, that's why Waha out in the Permian goes like negative all the time. What are you going to do? What are you going to do when you can't produce that oil, right? So that's where a lot of the conversations we're having at Giga is, both domestically and internationally, is how can we help you, hit your returns profiles financially and operationally, optimize the wells for liquids, and then of course have synergies of, electrifying the field and just being an offtake partner. So like Bitcoin is, is an economic free market solution to enable oil and gas to be much more resilient going forward, right? And that's actual change, and be a better steward of the environment, which is huge.
On that EPA regulation, what's the, and I haven't seen it, so I don't know. What's the I guess requirements there? Like, is it a tolerance and is it a period of time, or is it just? I know there's exceptions, right? And we can dive into the legalese. Definitely not what I'm fluent in, but overall there is a $1 per ton of CO2, flare, kind of relationship there. So the idea is for it to impact your bottom line enough to where you're going to develop your oil asset and not flare.
Is this in the form of a tax? Or they call it a fine?
A fine.
Okay.
Yeah, that's something too that like.
And if you're a conspiracy theorist, this is the super majors love this because it's going to force even further consolidation. Right. And so what this really affects is independent American oil and gas. Right. Where like let's say you're a family, you're a family operator, it's been in the business for 3 generations. Yeah, you can be successful, but you can't go afford to either pay the fines or have the technology or the relationships with the midstreams to afford that type of offtake agreement to be built out just for your gas. Right. With Bitcoin, now you can continue to kind of build your business, and so that's exciting for me because we're fighting down kind of top down M&A that's happening. Right. Which is not ideal.
Yeah. Man, I didn't think about it.
It's going to kill innovation.
Like
right?
But yeah, that
Yeah.
does.
Yeah.
It does. And I feel like every time more regulatory stuff gets involved, it ends up being the smaller guys that bear the brunt of it.
So when we go talk to our E&P partners, it's about solving, their future problems. Right. It's like, sure, we can put out a flare here or there, but it's more like, hey, you're going to step out to your bolt-on acreage that you just bought at like, you're going to tell people you bought it for like P18, but you really bought PV18, but you bought it probably for like PV10.
Yeah.
And now you can't hit those returns because you don't have any, it's all dependent on offtake for gas.
Yeah.
And you can't. So
are you getting more inbound calls from operators now?
Yes.
Yeah.
And or our existing relationships with operators, it's more like, oh yeah, great. Thank you for, mitigating these two, gathering facilities. We're going to go drill this much more for the next 24 months. Can you start planning and can we co-develop this together? Right.
Do you think it's just due to them getting educated or?
The short answer is yes.
Yeah.
It's about, you have the young kids in those EMPs that are trying to problem solve. Eventually they get into the ear of the development manager, show them the numbers, right? Run the numbers, right? And then as, this isn't the newest solution. Like, this, it's been a couple cycles that people have known about this. So,
Right. I think it's changing a lot too. I mean, I don't deal with the inbound from operators as much as you guys will. You got a product to sell. But I feel a change in tone from just the conversations I have. Like, it's not at all the same as it was 2-3 years ago. Not even close.
No.
It's like it's very acceptable at this point.
And it's not even about Bitcoin. It's a service.
Yeah,
it's a service. It's let's let your liquids rip service, right? Whatever the acronym is for that. And so the Middle East is also taking part, right? Because they want to continue to lead in building their financial and socially influencing institutions. To do that, they need to participate in these flare mitigation, initiatives. And so from a technology perspective, they're very excited about this, and that's what consumes a lot of our conversations there.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's a way for them to check a lot of boxes when it comes to actually, hitting their production numbers. Right. And so, but those conversations are very different. Here you call an operator, get a deal done in 3 months. Over there, it's a lot of the formalities are very, present. As you know, you've been there several times.
Yeah, I actually went there with Brent and James McCarthy, and we're still having the same conversations. Like,
and they're also interested in the grid, right?
Yeah,
they look at ERCOT, they look at what a deregulated grid can do, and it's like, man, it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, and the balancing aspect of it.
Exactly.
Right?
So that's why you've seen Marathon, partner with in the Emirates. You're starting, Oman has a huge presence being done right now. So as they build out their generation for their, as they, transform and continue to evolve, their infrastructure, Bitcoin mining is a real-time partner, and they got money to spend.
And I'll tell you, I have some clients in the Middle East. They've been the best clients to work with. I mean, I love all my clients, but like, they've been wonderful. Like, they're very like, they know exactly what they want. Yeah. And it's a very clear discussion. You know what I mean? And there's a lot going to happen there. Yep. There's a lot. There's a deep pockets, and they can
and they know that energy and infrastructure is the move, in the current macro environment. Where interest rates are at. Traditional SaaS is bleeding, right? And so if you look at, I want to invest in energy, great. Oil and gas returns are amazing, right? How can I do it in a way that lets me check, these, governance boxes that I have in my organization, and also outperform? It's like, Bitcoin mining. Yeah. Great. And maybe diversify my exposure from my local currency or dollars into this hard money that's neutral. Even better. Yeah. Great. So it's like a lot, it's compounding wins.
And what I've noticed over there too, it seems like when one sees someone else do it, it's like, wait, it's a competitive.
Sure. Yeah, like cousin.
I can't let my stepbrother freaking beat me on this.
100%.
So, what I mean? And there starts. That's what makes me think the Middle East might be a freaking hotspot over the next.
And it is. And it is. It's very exciting, just to maybe kind of look at, what's happening in the business from a global perspective. Over the last, over the year of 2023, we saw hash rate double. Yeah. Like, insane.
And just 23?
Yeah, just 23. So like, we went from like 250 exahash to we broke 500. right?
And that's so crazy.
And
you remember just a few years ago. It's
yeah.
like, goodness.
It's insane. It's insane.
Yeah.
And so what it tells me is like, sure, price went like this, but a lot of the money that was being deployed into rack space kept going.
Mm-hmm.
And, Russia came online, is, they're monetizing, they're monetizing their energy, through Bitcoin mining. That's great. You have East Africa with, all the hydro in Ethiopia. You have the geothermal in Kenya. Companies like Gridless doing microgrids for the communities. Like that's absolutely amazing. And then all the big projects in Paraguay and Latin America are coming online. So, rack space is being built. It's kind of in oil and gas when they say counter cyclical investing. It's the same. It's the same. Same jam.
Just another example of the similarities.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, at NAPE, I'm doing a presentation on the similarities in oil and gas.
Oh, great. Cool.
I better do my slides, man.
Sure.
I haven't put anything together yet.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I'm very bullish on the Middle East. I'm very bullish on basically
are there a lot
all the international.
Are there a lot of like public projects people know? I know there's been a lot of talk.
Sure.
But has there been a lot of like public projects that people have talked about in the Middle East?
Sure. So they're happy to kind of name a few. So there's the big joint venture that Marathon Digital is doing with EDQ, with their, I think their technology investment arm called 02, I believe. And that's a big, I think it's 250 megawatts because, they built all this generation and, the temperature profiles and electricity needs in the UAE are quite, either they're on and they're off. And so from a grid balancing perspective or a load balancing perspective, a load banking perspective, it's a perfect solution. Oman, I think, through the organization, the investment arm Exahertz and other partners, 800 megawatts plus are coming online. So, they're definitely very, very, very active. Those are kind of like the main public ones. Around the world, Bitdeer partnered with the Kingdom of Nepal to do large projects, which is super exciting. Venezuela has, the government of Venezuela has always had to take, on the business there, but they're OGs and very resilient business. So you're seeing governments, El Salvador continues to build, their activities. So you're seeing a lot of maturity.
Where was the largest increase in hash rate geographically?
Oh man,
last year.
What would you say, Justin?
I think there was a lot that came on in Russia. It's hard to gauge how much that actually was. Latin America had a lot too.
Yeah, I bet you know who knows the answer to this question? Luxor. They came out with a 2023 report. It's fucking fire.
Really?
I recommend people to go see it. But
Luxor always has
Google
the
that
best
real quick.
info.
Yeah, I know it's a huge, like it's a 60-page report, like some of the best data and the best analysis I see. I think, by efficiency of machines, the United States just kept building, but I think other places just grew faster. And I also think the OEMs are also mining themselves. Right. So like China still has 20-25% of the hash rate.
Yeah. No, they definitely still have a lot.
Yeah, which is great. That's what we want.
It's good to be diversified.
Yeah.
Decentralized.
Yeah.
But I think that I still think like the room to grow, like Africa, South America, Middle East are like, they're just, it's
like doing international projects in oil and gas. It's going to take, 5+ years, and that's fine. It's just different level of expectation, different type of project. While in the United States, for example, you can do something at medium scale pretty fast. Right. And so with that, we're starting to see some M&A come back into the fold. You saw the merger between HUD 8 and USBTC I compare them to the merger of Amoco and BP. That then kind of started a frenzy, right? Because you needed size to compete, right? And so, HUD 8 has, public markets and a whole bunch of Bitcoin on their balance sheet and some like traditional compute. And USBTC had runway on sites, right? And have an operation like a, top tier operational, management business. So very complementary. I think we'll see some more M&A. We're seeing, Big Daddy, Core Scientific get relisted next week. So exited, bankruptcy. That's very exciting.
You said it relisted?
Relisted. Yeah.
Well, and then Northern too, picking up the
right. So I
corporate
think
site.
One of the biggest surprise, not the biggest surprise, but one of the things that caught my eye this year was how Tether, the say offshore digital dollar bank, who is I think the owner of the most amount of U.S. Treasuries in the world. And so
is that the truth?
Yeah, that yield, makes them bank quarterly, and they put that into Bitcoin, but now they're putting it into Bitcoin infrastructure. And so they have a relationship with Northern Data to do international and domestic projects. And they also invest on they're also doing their own stuff internationally. And so through that, Northern, which is, a long time, very well respected firm in the space, acquired a 300 megawatt site outside of Corpus, which, makes all the sense. And is very exciting. I'm sure they'll do hydro there, because if you've ever gone to Corpus, you can taste the salt in the air, right?
Yeah, no kidding.
But very exciting. So that's pushing to technological applications that maybe last cycle weren't available. So that site might have not been done last cycle. And then you're starting to see really big projects, start to get built. I think that we both know in our network. Yeah. And so that's exciting. And so what would have been a greenfield project, 25K per meg, now you're starting to see that start to get bid up. You saw Marathon buy out Generate Capital's assets for like 480, K per meg, for, rack ready space. Right. So you're starting to see, some comps that are moving, things up. Yeah.
Right. And that's exciting to me, because obviously we got the halving coming up. I don't know. I'm very interested.
What do you guys think is going to happen?
Well, I think realistically, there's going to have to be some groups consolidate.
Sure.
I don't think I think it's unavoidable, and I think there's groups
in the public or private side, or both.
Well, I think a lot of the public miners are probably sitting on the sideline right now. The ones that have capital, waiting for
the ones who can raise will raise,
right,
and continue to outgrow compressed margins. But there's this middle part of the market where they got a lot of cheap debt, cheap capital in last cycle. Market took a shit, and now they have to go get more expensive debt, and it just doesn't work.
Right.
And so,
it's going to be tough.
It's going to be tough.
And so that's where I think some of the groups that are well capitalized, like Northern got the deal in Corpus, I think because they got a good deal. And they looked at it like, this is a great opportunity to
they know how to pick their shots.
Right. Yeah. Right. And I think there's groups like them. Like, I think Corp could come in and make a splash with something. They're coming out of bankruptcy.
I'm sure they're planning.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So I think some of those guys are going to come in. They're going to pick off some folks here in the next 5 to 6 months.
Yep.
For a cheap rate. I do think we'll still see some price appreciation. But the good thing now is that I think the miners that are going to make it, there was a lot of learning that happened on that last cycle.
Of course.
And so the models, I think, are changed, and I think they're going to be much more conservative on planning for the future rather than just trying to grab as much as possible, which is what it
sounds like shale.
It sounds exactly like shale. Yeah. It does.
Yeah.
And so
it's just 2015 all over
yes,
again.
man. I'm telling you, it's the same freaking business over and over and over in so many different ways. The FOMO that happens.
Yeah. And one of the things that I think is going to be interesting when the halving happens is what transaction fees might do to revenues, and how do the market, how these Bitcoin miners model themselves, and how do the markets respond to them when it comes to transaction fees, because somebody way smarter than I can talk about ordinals and BRC20 tokens and all that, but basically it created a free market for block space, and it bid up the transaction fees almost to the point where, if a block was 6.25 Bitcoin, you were getting another 4 to 6.25 Bitcoin on top of it.
Transactions.
Right.
Doubling your revenue. It did for a while.
So we saw, a transaction fees spike. And so, as the subsidy kind of continues to go down, we'll see Bitcoin miners continue to leverage their flexible load for power trading like Riot does. You'll see others that will, own their generation assets. You'll see those that just do infrastructure and do hosting. And then you'll see those that maybe take a bet on these, these types of transaction fee spikes or whatever it may be. And so you're going to start, I think, see more specialization.
What about kind of seeing more of the miners diversify through AI computing, server space?
Sure. Yeah.
You think there's gonna be much of that?
Man, you gotta love the press releases. Yeah. The pops that occur. Man, I don't want to say any names, but there's these couple companies in the public space that you know who you are. No news public releases every month, every 2 weeks, where it's we just announced that we're still doing what we're doing.
Right.
Bro, Come on. Like, look, Ma, no hands. It's. I think the AI compute space is exciting because the bones, to running, all these applications of rendering and language learning models and all that, whatever it may be. There's a lot of money there. So like
it's a growth area.
Yeah. But it's a diversification growth area. That being said, running a tier 0 data center, like they like to call it in HPC land, is not so simple as just like here's
plugging it in.
Yeah, exactly. Plugging it in. That being said, I think it's very real for operators and companies that know what they're doing.
Yeah. The margins can be better on it.
No, the margins are amazing. Yeah. But it also requires another magnitude of CapEx as well. So I think it's going to...
But I think too, though, the capital is cheaper for that than it is for the miners.
That's right.
Still.
But the sophistication of that capital is much higher. What they're looking for is much higher. Right. And so I think there will be peers in the Bitcoin mining space that, let's say, they have a site already. They're going to go develop another site that's better for Bitcoin mining. Maybe the site power went up, the hedges went away, whatever it may be. Now let's develop it out for GPU rendering or whatever it may be. And, and that's fine. And I'll see Bitcoin miners use Bitcoin mining to make their HPC offering more competitive.
Right.
Because like you need 99% uptime in HPC. So if let's say you have 50 megawatts, you book 20 of that for HPC, which is a shit ton for HPC.
Right.
But you can do 10 for Bitcoin mining that's always online, never curtails. And then the other 20 you can curtail. And so that way the Bitcoin mining can subsidize your HPC offering, and then you can get a really high quality tenant in and underwrite the whole thing. Right. That's how I see them, kind of engaging.
That makes sense. Yeah.
But I still think a lot of it's more.
What about like on the, fluff. Like you said, the bones are there, right? And so if you were to distill things down, it's kind of like running the same business, but with hash rate as with kind of like oil and gas. I see that as a commodity where there's always going to be a buyer. If you're getting into the high performance compute, AI data center space, what about the whole BD element of that? Of like, unless there's something to where you can just throw this up into the cloud and there's a market maker.
There's wholesale, right? Yeah. There's wholesale, right? Yeah. Like you can go do full origination out in Silicon Valley and get yourself an AI funded startup to like, pay, spend half their raise on your, run on render time with you on clusters. But there is a sophisticated market for that. That being said, I think the AI, like the money that's getting raised in venture capital land in Silicon Valley for AI startups is going to be very much like Web 2.0, where the winners of Web 2.0 were Facebook and Google because it was all ad tech. The winners of the AI boom are going to be, the traditional FANG, but also anybody who owns NVIDIA. Like all the money's just going to get suctioned out to NVIDIA, and HPC is like one step above NVIDIA, right? Like still hardware, but the HPC still has to go buy it from NVIDIA.
Right.
So that's kind of like, that's where I would say kind of there's the difference between like commodities business, which is Bitcoin mining, and then compute's still a commodity, but it's still venture capital funded.
Do you have to have, I guess my question is like, do you have to have a BD team if you're on that side of the house?
I would say so. There's always you always have a counterparty. The answer is yes.
Yeah, and I mean, you got to find an asset, right?
Especially if nobody knows you. Like at least on the like signing a HPC compute deal, nobody knows who you are because
just boom, $1 billion data center built, and it's like somebody please come.
Typically, you're gonna do that if you have somebody on the hook ready to take the services, but you're gonna have to do the same BD origination to finding a site,
right? That you'd have to do
with Bitcoin mining.
Yeah. I mean, that's the only reason why I think there would be some of that kind of groups looking for that. Is just you diversify your revenue a little bit. It's for the most part a very similar kind of strategy, right? If you find the cheapest power, get the biggest margin you can. Yeah. But it's more, to me, it's more of an infrastructure player that's going to go do that.
And a way that I really like to think about it is, credit out to Gideon, who is such an amazing thought leader in the space and brings the energy. Is Bitcoin mining's like a wildcat well, right? Where you are testing whether fundamental elements of your power system are appropriate for a venture, right? Like same with a petroleum system, like wildcat exploration. Is the land appropriate next to the sub? Is the power market appropriate? Can you curtail? Like, does it all make sense? Can you have labor there that can support? And then, traditional compute is the bolt-on or the development of a full field, right? Where like you're not really taking exploration risk, but now it's you're gonna have to pour 3 zeros more behind it, but the revenues are a little bit more de-risked in that sense.
Yeah.
So
this is kind of going back a little bit, but the hash rate on ASICs has gone up dramatically, right? With the iterations that
keeps
come
going up.
Yeah. Are you guys finding, because Giga's got several sites and running probably a variety of iterations of machines, what is it getting easier to run these machines, or is it getting more difficult with the higher processing and hash rate?
I think the short answer there is it's getting easier because...
Is that because of the containers in the product?
100%. There's now more of a standard, right? Before it was like, yeah, sure, it's a CCAN, but there's, you might get fried inside one, right? And now, I'll speak for Giga, but I'm sure peers as well are creating standardizations, safety, regulatory standardizations that you can drop this infrastructure anywhere in the world and it's good to go, right? At the same time, we've seen a full magnitude of improvement in management software, right? And so that's off the shelf management software, because everybody has their own proprietary stuff, and that I think has made just ASICs be ran better, right? More responsible operators, if that makes sense.
Is that impacting the number of employees that you guys are bringing in?
It's kind of like the AI conversation. It's like, instead of saying, hey, AI is going to take my job, it's like, oh no, with AI now I can do more. So now with, say, the same core team and all these tools and data collection and optimization and visualization, we can just make faster decisions, better decisions, and do more. So for example, like I always think about it as like, how many times do we have to send somebody out to the field? Because that's a liability and a cost, right? The most dangerous shit we do all day is drive, right? Yeah. So it's like, if I can avoid sending somebody out and do a remote restart, man, that's a win, right? Or, hey, we know at this level we can still hold on, we can send somebody tomorrow, right? Or we need this type of specialization. All those things at then over a year are really going to matter, and that's the game of inches that I think is going to define the next cycle.
What do you think? This is one more about hiring. Is there going to be...
and real quick, Giga's hiring right now. So you're a quick plug. So, marketing, sales, finance, controller. Like, does anybody know a controller? I don't know any controllers. But
I really don't even know what that is.
They're all very well paid though.
Yeah. So if a controller that wants to have fun, come, give me a shout. And other, and we have technical positions as well, but give us a call. We're growing and we're happy to talk.
Well, we just launched Collide Jobs.
Excellent.
So
what?
You're gonna list your jobs.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Nice.
So I'll work with my guys and we'll get them posted over there.
My guys touch your guys.
Yeah.
As your attorneys. Can we edit that?
Yeah. It's fine. So the hiring, you were saying.
Oh yeah. Well, and it kind of goes into that, is like the technical disciplines. I'm wondering, we got oil and gas, and there is a bigger need for the variety of technical disciplines in the space. I consider land a technical discipline, even though some companies might not. But
look, brother, as a geologist, I consider geology a technical discipline, and many may not as well. So
I agree with you, though. I think it's a technical discipline. So despite what I've said on here before about geologists, like who other than Mario, who needs a geologist?
Yeah. Well, when all of the shale, isn't, when the returns are, I think this was on one of the BDE pods. It's like, we got to go hunting for resources again. We got to go whale hunting again. So,
right. It's true. That is true.
So, but anyway,
do you see any new kind of, because the technology is changing, right? It's getting more powerful as everything ends up doing, especially when there's money involved. Do you see any new kind of focuses on certain disciplines on the operational side, or what you're looking for?
I think there's always going to be a demand for people who want to go to a remote place and get shit done, right? I mean, it's the same. I got a cousin out on a frac crew in northern Alberta right now. It's negative 20 degrees.
Gosh, that sounds brutal.
Ugh. 20 degrees in Houston's awful.
Yeah. Get shit done, right? And so, like, sure, and network engineers are super helpful. Let's say welders for like, more, ASIC repairs are super helpful. Operations, like a lot of operations engineering and oil and gas, traditional ops engineer is super applied. Land is super applied. All of that stuff is very applicable, but I think you can't replace, sure, like project management, like all of that, like biz ops stuff is like copy and paste a lot of the time, but getting people who want to show up and learn and, aren't afraid to stay another hour and get after it, that is super hard to find.
Yeah.
And I think that's also an opportunity because a lot of these mines are in rural places. And so like, if you can get some young kids to not move out of their county and to stay and learn these super applied skills, that can be taught anywhere. And then they start paying taxes in those counties and they stay, that's a generational, disruption as well. So,
right. Yeah. And I mean, it's the hard part nowadays is finding the people that are willing to do a little bit more. I'm dealing with my kids, I'm like, you guys gotta get your shit together because you have the opportunity nowadays to literally outwork people. That's like the easiest way to get at it.
Great. I mean, you're kind of our in-house Tony Robbins, on. Well, what would
That's
you?
That's a good thing.
Yeah, it's a good thing, right?
Yeah. I was actually listening to Tony Robbins.
Yeah, I'll walk on fire for you. That's but from like a grit perspective, right? It's like you can have all the technical skills, but like you can't really teach grit, right?
Yeah. Right. That was like the one thing that I think that my parents, even though separated, the one thing that they both had in common was, work ethic. And I wouldn't really describe for them as grit because neither one of them are entrepreneurs. And I think that like there's some sort of like resilience and tenacity that kind of goes into grit. But work ethic is a huge component of the grit thing.
Showing up, owning your shit, owning your mistakes,
accountability.
Right? Yeah, yeah.
Talk to my son about that constantly.
And it's hard. It's hard. And so I think like those types of things are still what moves the needle in the business right now.
Yeah.
Eventually, yes, finance, operations, compliance, all that stuff is very applicable. And very important.
I was just curious if you're getting out, like a lot of people reaching out about jobs that weren't traditionally doing, I don't say traditional, weren't doing that before from certain disciplines, like computer, lack of a better term, computer nerds reaching out, like how can I get involved on the mining side?
So we do get outbound, inbound about like, hey, how can I work? Right. Yeah. So like we get a lot of sales, but the type of sales that we want are people who are, either electrical experts, like that can do, B2B electrical infrastructure, or people who like know what a Bitcoin mining container is. And that can be quite, lowers the pool. A lot of people from sales are coming like from, financial services or B2B tech or whatever it may be. So like not super applied.
Right.
And then we get some inbound from like engineers that just want to like, hey, like I saw your hydro unit. That looks cool. Can I like, what can I do? Right. Yeah. And so like that's cool.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I had a breakfast this morning with a couple guys from oil and gas space, and this is kind of what I was asking because like I could feel that they both were like, gosh, I want to get in there. So like they're very curious, but they also didn't know what would they do. You know what I mean? Yeah.
I mean, it's, at Exxon, I was described to be on some of my 360 feedback as painfully extroverted. And like, I've been able to jiu-jitsu that into, kind of a commercial
What does that
role.
mean? Painfully extroverted?
I just dropped.
Does that mean you annoy people?
Who's it painful for? Or the other people?
Yeah. I think, I get a raspy voice, but definitely, they would be annoyed. That turned into kind of a natural BD position for me. Right. And I was able to then I do have a technical background, in geosciences and analysis and kind of like, integrate that. But for like engineers that are making oil and gas engineering jobs, the space is not there yet to support, one-to-one comps, like to be very honest. Eventually we'll get there and like, early adopters, get paid in different ways. And, we're here because we have a greater mission and we believe, this is the best place to spend our time. But like if you were to go off the rack and ask my guy who does, operations in Guyana, I'm sure he'd love to go work in Bitcoin mining. It's like, well,
you're ready to take.
It's hard to have that conversation.
Yeah. That's kind of what I was.
But we'll get there. We will.
I think, this cycle is going to be a big one. Yeah, Jake bailing on us, but it's all right. But yeah, man, I mean, look, I'm really happy for you to get over there at Giga, because honestly, like, you're one of my best friends in the space and care about you a lot.
You're one of my best friends in the space.
I know, man. I know.
Yeah.
I mean, I hope so.
Yeah,
it'd be weird if you were one of my best friends and I wasn't one of yours. So.
Why are you talking to Justin 5 times a week? My wife asks. It's like, well, if you knew, you knew. But no, I'm very excited and thank you for that. And it's going to be a lot of fun. If anybody's interested about, go to gigaenergy.com, hit me up at, like LinkedIn or Twitter or whatever it is. I'm happy to have a conversation. If you're just like, hey, I'm interested in this, I work in this role, but I'm really excited, like more than just, my day job. I'm interested to have good conversations with good people and see how I can help them in any way. Yeah. But if you're interested in some of our products, some of the technology that we're doing, if, if you're an oil and gas producer who's interested in like, about this magic money and how it can help me, with my offtake, give me a shout. Happy to have a conversation.
That's awesome, dude. And what about Empower? You guys participating in
So I believe we'll do kind of one of these technical presentations. I think it'll be more related to the hydro technology that we're developing. Super exciting.
You're going to have a container out there?
And we'll have our hydro container
Nice.
out there.
You're going to have something running in it?
Yeah. We'll see. We'll see. I don't know how expensive diesel is right now, but maybe we'll, I'll call we'll call the new mayor and see if he wants to participate. But I'm excited for Empower. I applaud the Digital Wildcatters for putting in such a great show. It's really what we need. And so will you be the hostess with the mostest? Are you expected to?
Yeah, I'll be doing something. I'm not sure yet.
Are we gonna do podcasts?
Yes, we need to. That's what we were talking about earlier. We're trying to figure out, we need to start doing some more remote, because it is hard to get a bunch of different people in here, because there's so many people in the space that are outside of Houston too that we should talk to. And we did some remote ones back early on. It didn't feel right. We need a better setup. Yeah,
somebody that I like, that I who's like workflow I admire is like Pete McCormick. Yeah, and so like for example, he'll go to Nashville and like record, in parallel. Like basically, you get everybody to one place and you can like go record.
Okay, that's what I was telling Jake. We need to like. I'm gonna talk to Tyler LaRoche. So, Tyler, we're calling you, but like at the Bitcoin conference. Yeah, I want to. Like I want to
offsite, but nearby.
Right. And have almost like a press pass, like, and set up a show. Yeah. Set up a nice booth, camera set up, like all the same cameras we got, and record a couple episodes.
Or do one above one of the Broadway bars there, like during the day, right? Like where they do live music, and like that's a good vibe. It's probably like 5 minutes away from the center. Yeah, people are happy to come pop down. I'm happy to come co-host.
We need need to do that.
And for Empower, we should do the same. Yeah, because that way I'm happy. Just get everybody. Right. You can't beat content.
No, and we had that at Empower this last year, but it was like. We had one camera.
But you guys were running around. It's very hard. So much, I'm talking about like just have it scheduled up like a week in advance.
Yeah, like here it is.
So people just rolling, rolling by. Maybe you and Jake switch, or like we'll have guest co-hosts that way. You can get around.
But, we had Lisa last year.
She's awesome. Yeah. She's awesome. I would say, and for Nape, do something in the Petroleum Club or something for future Napes. Right. What are your plans for Nape?
Well, I'm speaking at the Bitcoin Pavilion, doing a presentation on like the similarities in oil and gas.
Good. I'll be excited to see that.
Yeah, no.
Let me know if you need, any
some slides. I need to put all my slides together. Yeah. Sorry, Mariah. She probably hates me. I haven't responded. I'm very bad at responding to emails to her. She probably hates me.
Well, we're gonna get it done. It's gonna be a great time.
Yeah, it'll be good. But doing that, I'll be at parties and hanging out.
Yeah, the Four Seasons, man. That's where all the deals get done.
Yeah, that's where all. What about you?
Yeah, same. Yeah. I think we'll have a booth there. Trying to, shake hands, not babies. Yeah. At the exhibition, and there's social events. Pretty hyped about that. And then Four Seasons, man, and all the law firm parties.
Oh,
so it's gonna be good.
We gotta definitely go hit some of them.
Yeah. My liver's already tired.
I'm tired in anticipation. I know, man. Yeah. I didn't do Nape how I used to do Nape the last couple of years. I might do it this year.
Are we gonna do Blazers?
Oh man. I think I will want to present. Okay. I have to. Old school landman, dude. Yeah, man. Blue jacket, khakis, like you can pick them out, Yeah. You know how I always knew someone was a geologist? What would you guess?
they wore boots.
No socks.
Interesting.
No socks. I'd look at them. There was no socks, and they're wearing those loafers.
Yeah. Correlation.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or it might like randomly be like a really douchey land guy that has like some really expensive loafers that he wanted everybody to notice. Other than that, they're typically geologists.
Yeah.
But that's more because they're like,
I'll keep my eye out.
Yeah.
I'm excited. Yeah.
We'll see if my thesis holds true. But so
well,
see,
this has been awesome, brother. I really appreciate you guys kind of bringing me up to have a good conversation. Sign up for Empower Y'all.
Yes.
Hit me, hit me up, on all the socials and go to the new Giga Energy website. Looks pretty cool. And
I need to check it out.
Next time you guys want me on, happy to chat.
First repeat guest, and you might be the first repeat guest too.
Yeah, man, I'm around. So, I literally live like 10 minutes away. So
perfect.
Yeah, it's perfect. Good. Awesome, man.
Well, thank you, bro.
Awesome,
Appreciate
brother.
it.
Thank you.